83 288 6684. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
As the sun rises on 2026, Channel Africa celebrates with you. This year, may prosperity flow like water. May unity strengthen our nations. And may every African story inspire the world.
Channel Afrique vous accompagne dans cette célébration. Que l'espoir illumine notre continent.
Que as vozes de África ecoem com orgulho.
Ustawi na ufanisi na vitiririke kama maji.
From all of us at Channel Africa, we wish you and yours a joyful, successful, and prosperous 2026.
Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:07 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. We're going to start off with the EFF leader, Julius Malema, and the EFF as a whole are addressing the media. Let's find out exactly what is happening there on the ground.
With corruption, and the EFF will never protect wrongdoing in the name of the organizational loyalty. The plenum also reflected on the hands-off Malema protest, which emerged as a powerful expression of popular resistance against political persecution and the abuse of the judiciary to pursue political opponents of the establishment. The ground forces of the EFF and the people of South Africa landed in East London in their masses to stand with us on a case that has been dragged since 2018 to defend the right of revolutionary leaders to speak truth to power without intimidation, selective prosecution, or state-sponsored harassment. The protests, which were echoed in Australia, Europe, and the rest of African continent, demonstrate that the EFF is not an isolated political formation, but a mass movement rooted in communities that are prepared to defend our leadership and our struggle. We take this opportunity to thank all our ground forces and the continent of Africa, the people of the world who supported us during these difficult times. We must not forget our recent victory in the defeat of data and act time expiry. Our historic victory achieved through sustained parliamentary struggle and public mobilization. This intervention exposed the exploitation of the poor by telecommunication corporations that profit from unused data while households struggle to afford connectivity. The EFF's success in this battle was affirmed by ICASA, who noted that access to communication is a constitutional right, central to modern life, and that working class people should not be robbed through corporate greed. These victories should be recognized as a proof that revolutionary politics grounded in principle and mass action can deliver meaningful change even before state power is fully captured. The plenum engaged deeply with the shifting global balance of forces and rapid deterioration of the international political order. The world has entered a period of heightened instability driven by the aggressive conduct of imperial powers and the deepening crisis of global capitalism. The current phase is marked by open coercion, militarization of foreign policy, economic warfare, and the erosion of international law. The United States of America in particular is playing a destabilizing role globally, using its economic and military power to discipline states that pursue independent paths or refuse to submit to imperial interests. We commend South Africa's principled stance in solidarity with the people of Palestine, and its opposition to Israel apartheid practices has exposed the country to external hostility and misinformation campaigns. This pressure is not accidental, but part of a broader attempt to punish countries that challenge imperial dominance. We further commend the declaration of the Israeli diplomat as a persona non grata and call for the president to adhere to the long-standing resolution of Parliament to close the Israeli embassy with immediate effect. The EFF remains firm in its view that the unraveling of the current global order also presents an opportunity for humanity. As all systems fail, there is a space to advance a multipolar world based on equality between nations, respect for sovereignty, and cooperation rather than domination. This brings up the need to strengthen South-to-South relations, reduce dependency on US dollar, oppose foreign military bases on African soil, and build independent industrial, technological, and defense capacity across the continent. On the domestic front, the plenum reflected with agency on the worsening conditions faced by the majority of South Africans. Unemployment, hunger, crime, gender-based violence, and failing public service have become defining features of our daily life, exposing the complete failure of the post-apartheid political elite. Particular attention was paid to the collapse of local government with municipalities, which sit at the coalface of service delivery, being increasingly dysfunctional and captured by unaccountable officials, tender networks, and consultants. Communities are subjected to water shortage.
And that is EFF leader Julius Malema giving a media briefing on a congress that the EFF had over the weekend. It is 13 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Son of Libya's former leader, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, has reportedly been shot dead. The death of 53-year-old Saif al-Islam Gaddafi was confirmed by the head of his political team. To discuss this issue further, we are joined on the line by Naeem Gina, a senior researcher at the Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection. Naeem, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lily. Thank you.
Now, over the years, there have been many calls that Saif al-Islam was killed, many claims rather. And should we take this as the truth this time around?
I think this time around it's clear that he was. There's been multiple kinds of confirmations. And yes, finally that.
And what role, if any, did he play in Libyan politics presently?
So, since the uprising before the uprising in 2011, he was kind of in Muammar Gaddafi's inner circles, but he was also kind of an inside critic in some ways. He gave interviews where he was very liked by the West, and where he said things like, that he wants to bring democracy to Libya, those kinds of things. But since the uprising, he became much closer to his father's policies, supported his father's policies, supported his father. But after he was captured for a while, and after he was released, he tried to make a kind of political comeback. But really, the kind of politics in Libya has changed so considerably that he didn't make much of an impact. He even tried to contest elections, but that didn't go anywhere. So, he hasn't been as influential in Libyan politics as some make him out to be.
And how do Libyans view Saif al-Islam compared to his father?
Well, this is a good question. I mean, as I say, in the initial stages, before the uprising began in 2011, he was seen as a kind of reformist figure, although he very modestly used to say that he doesn't want to be his father's successor, etc. But around the world, especially in the Western world, he promoted himself with Western governments, etc., as reformists that could bring democracy and liberalism, etc., to Libya. So for that period at least, he was seen in that kind of way by Libyans. But after the uprising in 2011, I mean, he was seen by many people as basically being in his father's camp. And so the few Gaddafiotes that were left, in a sense, supported him, but not supported him as a kind of the future leader or anything like that, supported him because of his father. And those who were against Gaddafi opposed him.
And, what's happened now with the rest of the family? Would you know where they are and, his family, whether he had a wife and children? What's happening on that front?
Yeah, variously in different places. I mean, his younger brother is dead. His older brother, one of his older brothers, is in prison somewhere in Lebanon. And another one is also has also been killed. Witnesses that are alive in different parts of the world. They spread out in different parts of the world. I think he's the only one that was actually left in Libya, or that stayed in Libya.
And Naeem, just very quickly, with everything that's happening in Libya, what are we likely to see happening going forward?
Well, looking I mean, clearly, you say very euphemistically with everything happening, but it's a big mess. I mean, we have at least two governments infighting within those governments, Eastern government and Western government, at least infighting in the Western one based in Tripoli, the Eastern one controlled by a very heavy-handed warlord who was a CIA asset at one point and more recently became one of the sponsors of Saif al-Islam Gaddafi. That kind of split doesn't seem like it's going to be resolved anytime soon. Whenever there is a suggestion of some kind of resolution and coming together, there seems to be forces that upset that balance, not least of all internal forces like Khalifa Haftar, the warlord, or supported by external forces, the United Arab Emirates, the Russians, the Turks, the Italians, etc. All have some kind of a stake and want their preferred government to be in charge. So it's a difficult one, and I don't see a resolution in the near future. I think some of the older politicians need to die, and Libyans need to be able to, take control of their country much more strongly.
Al Naeem, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We are going to leave it there for today. That's Naeem Gina, Senior Researcher at the Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection, joining us on the line.
Be inspired. Stay informed. Channel Africa, the beauty of life. Now available anytime, anywhere with our new app. 6 decades strong, Channel Africa continues to inspire Africa and the world. Proudly sharing
the African perspective.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
The Angolan Liberation Day, observed annually on the 4th of February, commemorates the start of the armed struggle against Portuguese colonial rule in 1961. This year marks the 65th anniversary of the event, with the central event taking place in the province of Cabinda in the north of the country. The ceremony will be led by the Minister of State and head of the military house of the President of the Republic, Francisco Pereira Furtado. But to unpack the day for us, we are joined on the line by an Angolan academic and political analyst, Faustino Enrique. Faustino, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good morning. Good morning, Lou, and good morning, all the Channel Africa audience.
Now, Faustino, all the best for these celebrations, just to start off with. Now, what events led to Angola's liberation from Portuguese colonial rule, and why is it seen as the turning point in Angola's history?
Well, first and foremost, it is necessary to say that this is not the Liberation Day itself, but the 4th February is the start of the armed struggle against the colonialism in Angola. This is the start of the armed struggle, not the Liberation Day itself. And it's a meaningful date because most of the events that followed, even the independence, started or gained a turning point from the 4th February of 1961. So that's why it's very important date in Angolan history.
Okay. And what role did neighboring African countries play in Angola's fight for independence?
Played a meaningful role because the independence of Angola gained force with the independence of neighboring countries like DRC in June of 1960, and also the Republic of Congo in the same date. Even Zambia, maybe in 1960 or 1963 or 4. So all those countries around Angola that gained the independence contributed for the armed struggle in Angola because, as you know, most of the Angola nationalists they found hello hello
Yes, we're here. Faustino, I'm here. We're listening to
hello.
you.
Okay, as I said, the neighboring country played a good role because most of the Angolan nationalists found exile, found a havens, a safe havens for the fighting from DRC, Congo, and Zambia. So the neighboring countries, DRC, Congo, and Zambia, played a very, very special role because the Angolan nationalist movement, the MPLA, even UNITA and FNLA, they they began the struggle. They started most of the struggle from the neighboring countries, so they played a good and very important role in the armed struggle in Angola.
And in what ways is the Liberation Day remembered across different generations?
This date is remembered by different generations in different ways. The younger generations that do not know exactly what the meaning of this date because history in Angola is not well lectured because there are different versions of the Angolan armed struggle because even this date, the 4th February, is normally attributed to one of the three main nationalist movements. Angola used to have three national movements. So those three national movements, the MPLA that proclaimed the independence, UNITA, and FNLA, they sometimes they argue that this date does not reflect the the start of the armed struggle. For instance, the first Angolan nationalist movement, the FNLA, they say that the most important date when it comes to the armed struggle is the March 15. So this is the date of FNLA, but is also a celebration date in Angola. It's not a holy day, but it's a celebration date that the FNLA, the national movement founded by Alden Roberto, they say the most important date is March 15. But for the ruling party, MPLA, the 4th February is in fact a date related with the armed struggle. So the different generations in Angola celebrate this date with different ways, different moods. Some give the importance to this date. Some say that this date does not reflect the real starting date of the armed struggle. So I think that the history must be well lectured to the younger generation. The teacher, the scholar, the education system in Angola must be reformed to real give to the younger generations the real insights about what happened during the years 40, 50, and 60s and so on.
Now let's talk about culture, music, and art. That how are they used to commemorate this day?
Well, in Angolan culture, this date is well represented because, as I say, as this date is celebrated mostly by the ruling party and the some sectors of the Angolan society. So the 4th February is well represented in the culture, in the music. You know, after the independence in 1975, because the Angolan, the ruling party in Angola chose it to be a Marxist system in Angola. So propaganda and the other propaganda and doctrines that the MPLA used to to put in Angolan society, it will reflected this kind of thing. So the 1st February is present in the culture, in the music, and sometimes in theaters, and the other manifestation, cultural manifestation. So there is music, theater, and the other cultural manifestation, even during carnival, because at this date in February we will also have carnival festival. So the 4th February is all present in this kind of celebrations.
And just in wrapping up, let's talk about some of the challenges that you touched on it earlier, but I just wanted to go a little deeper into some of the challenges that Angola faced immediately after liberation.
Well, the great challenges that the Angolan faced after liberation or after the independence in 1975, of course, it was the education because the level of the illiteracy was very high. At the time of the independence in 1975, almost 80% of the population was illiterate because was illiterate, and most of the Portuguese colonialist authorities left the country, and Angola was left at no professionals with a high rate of illiteracy, and so the challenge was very, very high. And until now, we continue to face great problems when it comes to education, when it comes to health care, when it comes to infrastructure. This kind of challenge continue until today, and that's why it's important for the Angolan government to continue to reform, to do reforms, to invest in education, to invest in the infrastructure. Those are the challenges that we face today. Even with the unemployment is also a challenge during these days. So those are the challenges that we facing today as society and state.
Well, Faustin, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We'll leave it there for today. That was Angolan academic and political analyst Faustino Enrique joining us on the line. It is 12:30 Central African Time, and our news headlines up next.
SABC News headlines. The African perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Bandits have killed at least 35 people as they stormed through a remote village in central Nigeria's Kwara state, setting fire to buildings and shops. This was the deadliest assault recorded this year in the district bordering Niger state. The former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi's son, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, has been confirmed dead. Libya's Attorney General's office says investigators and forensic doctors examined Saif al-Islam's body and determined that he died from gunshot wounds. And the nuclear arms control agreement between Russia and the US is expiring later today, ending all legal restraints on their arsenals. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nsinsi.
SABC News headlines. The African perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the Sports Desk. I am Musibu Dimakura with your latest sports news at the Sawa. So Tanzania Simba SC midfielder Neo Maema has moved to clarify his contractual situation, confirming he is on loan from Mamelodi Sundowns despite the club appearing to bid him farewell last year. So in August of 2025, Sundowns announced that Maema was leaving the club, a statement that suggested a permanent departure, and that he was later unveiled by the Tanzanian Giants, reinforcing the perception that his time at Turkup had come to an end. Maema insisted that the move was in fact a loan deal.
Well, I haven't spoke to the club directly about any other team. I've heard it from my agent, and he told me that there's a club that's very interested. And how does it go? Because a lot of people are not aware that for me to come to Tanzania, it was very difficult because I had to negotiate with the club, and I told them this is where I want to go, not locally, and I had to leave. So what people don't know is that I'm actually on loan, so I still have to go back and then hear what they have to say,
Maema says he wasn't aware whether Sundowns were monitoring his game time while at Simba this season.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether it wasn't disclosed. Maybe, and nobody told me that I shouldn't say anything. But the only person I speak to is my family and my team, my agents. I have two. I think after this one, I have two options. It's either they're gonna trigger or maybe part our ways. But I'm hoping that they make the decision. For now, I wouldn't have an exact answer,
Onto this story now. A bid by Switzerland to host the 2038 Winter Olympic Games could be finalized by 2027 if the local political consultation process is successfully completed by the end of this year. That's according to the International Olympic Committee. Now, should that deadline pass, however, the IOC would open up a bidding for other interested parties, said Karl Strauss, who is the head of IOC's Future Host Commission for the Olympic Winter Games. Now, the Swiss project is currently the only bid in talks with the IOC as part of its privileged dialogue. The last time the winter sports powerhouses hosted the Winter Olympics was back in 1948 at Saint Moritz. Now, Switzerland, which hosts the IOC's headquarters in Lausanne, has repeatedly rejected Olympic plans in recent years, with projects from Sion, Graubünden, as well as Saint Moritz and failing to gain much local support. Many other Olympic bids in the German Alps as well as the Austrian Alps, including Innsbruck in 2026, suffered a similar fate in recent years. On to tennis news now. Jake Draper insists that he is still improving as he prepares to return from a long-term injury absence this week in Britain's Davis Cup qualifier against Norway in Oslo. The 24-year-old has not played since withdrawing from the US Open last August following his first-round match with an arm injury. Draper enjoyed the best year of his career in 2025 before the injury, climbing to 4th on the world rankings and then winning at Indian Wales. He returns on Thursday against a Norway side which may include three-time Grand Slam runner-up Casper Ruud. Draper has only won one of his 4 Davis Cup matches and has not played in the team event since losing a singles rubber to Felix Auger-Aliassime back in 2024 in the finals in the group stages. Meanwhile, Jacob Fernley, who enjoyed a breakthrough season last year, and the informed Cameron Norrie are also part of a strong British side that will be favourites to beat Norway and set up a second-round qualifier against Austria or Ecuador. And finally, in golf news, top 10 finishers in Live Golf's 14 individual stroke play events will earn world ranking points this year, with the official World Golf Ranking confirming the news on Tuesday, granting accreditation to the Breakaway Tour for the very first time. So Live Golf, whose initial bid was unanimously rejected by the official World Golf Ranking in 2023, has submitted another application in June and also announced it would expand its tournaments from 54 to 72 holes in 2026, paving the way for Tuesday's approval. Meanwhile, the official World Golf Ranking did say its board had decided to allocate ranking points only to the top 10 finishers because Live Golf did not meet all of its requirements. In 2025, the field of Live Golf tournaments consists teams and 2 permanent wildcard spots for a total of 54 players, far fewer than the number of golfers who compete at a standard PGA Tour events. Now, the Saudi Arabian-backed circuit season opening event will kick off in Riyadh on Wednesday, with the 57 players set to participate. It is 12:37 p.m. Central African Time. It concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, do send us an email. That's to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Alternatively, call us. The newsroom line is +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Africa. It's time to plug into the heartbeat of the continent. Tune in to Channel Africa, your go-to radio station that broadcasts in 5 different languages.
L'Afrique du Sud célèbre la journée nationale du
Kabla hujaitwa kwa jina la Double K or more of our forests have been destroyed.
Tamo Partido Africano da Independência da Guiné.
See, Channel Africa represents every corner of this amazing land. From Lagos to Cape Town, Nairobi to Dakar, we've got you covered with the freshest news, music, and cultures. So, turn up the volume, feel the rhythm. And join the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Business news on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. U.S. oil major Chevron has renewed its commitment to the development of the Yolanda gas project that straddles the maritime border between Equatorial Guinea and Cameroon. In 2023, the two countries signed a bilateral treaty that allowed for the joint development of oil and gas reserves in the Gulf of Guinea, including the Chevron-operated Yoyo and Yolanda fields that contains an estimated 2.5 trillion cubic feet of gas. Managing Director for Chevron Nigeria and the Mid-Africa region, Jim Swartz, says the Yoyo-Yolanda project is central to Chevron's strategy of supporting long-term liquefied natural gas supply and leveraging existing infrastructure at Ellen and Punta Europa. In other news, Afrexim Bank's president, Dr. George Elombi, says the bank had put together an initial package of $8 billion for South Africa. The bank official was speaking at a ceremony where South Africa was set to become a full sovereign member of Afrexim Bank. The bank aims to stimulate a consistent expansion, diversification and development of African trade while operating as a first-class, profit-oriented, socially responsible financial institution and a center of excellence in African trade matters. A new national report has exposed a crisis in South Africa's social safety net. It says that 70% of households already receiving food assistance remain trapped in moderate to severe hunger. Food Forward SA, which seeks to address food insecurity in the country, conducted research which revealed that 1 in 4 families go an entire day without food, despite the country maintaining an overall agricultural surplus. Food Forward SA Managing Director Andy Du Plessis says government needs to urgently intervene.
What's happening is parents have to tell their children, there's no food tonight. We have to go without food. You have to go to bed without food. And that causes a whole range of psychosocial anxiety. It causes depression. Children can't understand why their parents aren't giving them food when they need this. Their body requires it.
Still in South Africa, the rand extended its advance in early trade, building on momentum after rebounding to firmer levels below the 16 rand per dollar mark, while local markets awaited the release of a purchasing managers index. The rand traded at 15.9250 against the dollar, about 0.3%. The dollar was flat against a basket of currencies. And the U.S. House of Representatives has narrowly approved a spending package to end a partial government shutdown that began on Saturday. The measure funds most government agencies until the end of the fiscal year in September, but the Department of Homeland Security will be funded only until the end of next week. Democrats are pressing the Trump administration to limit its migrant deportation campaign. The Republican Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, had this to say.
We make the plea and the demand that the governors and the mayors in these blue states and blue cities participate with federal law enforcement so that we have a safer environment in which to enforce federal immigration laws. Very, very important, and it's something the American people demand and deserve. We'll go forward now. We think the next 2 weeks will be critical, but I hope that they will not keep that funding in suspense because it's too important to the American people.
Financial indicators: $1 in Nigeria is 1,000 naira 393, Botswana 13 pula 22, Kenya 128 shilling 363, Zambia 19 kwacha 61. BRICS countries: $1 in Brazil 5 real 24, Russia 76 rubles 71, India 90 rupee 32, China 6 yuan 93, South Africa 15 rand 97 cents. $1 is 73 pence to the British pound, 84 to the euro. Commodities: gold is at $5,072, platinum at $2,326 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil, $67.57 a barrel. That's all for now. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email, newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chandruko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Keep Africa in your hands. Connect to our website for all your news, sports, and cultural updates. channelafrica.co.za. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 12:43 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. A top South African tourist resort could soon run dry of water. Knysna, on the country's Garden Route in the Western Cape province, is the latest town to be hit by a severe water crisis, prompting a state of disaster to be declared. And to speak to us further, we are joined on the line by Gift of the Givers, Imtiaz Suleiman. Imtiaz, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Lulu, thank you for inviting me.
Now, Gift of the Givers have been in the area. How bad is the situation in Knysna?
Well, it was day zero, almost day zero, 3 weeks ago, when we got called by the Garden Route Disaster Management to say, can you guys please come in to assist? There were several problems. One was with Ladysmith, the one spelled with an I, not the Ladysmith in KZN, the Ladysmith in the Southern Cape, and a place called Zoa. We started off there. Then it was Knysna that needed assistance. Next door is Plettenberg Bay. They needed assistance. And of course, now Sedgefield, just a day ago. So it's the whole Garden Route stretching, from Knysna, and of course parts of Georgia have also been affected, and even in sometimes Oudtshoorn. But the real crisis is in your introduction in Knysna, because there's no water coming from the river, and the dam levels are too low. The only way to solve the problem, and we've been very successful up till now, to make sure that very few people don't have water coming out with the tap. We've brought in 5 super tankers. They carry 35,000 liters of water each, given to us by DP World. And PG Bison has given us access to an underground water facility. We're actually filling them. Every day, every 2 days, we've got like 1 million liters adding into the dam. And because of that, water is coming to the taps. But how long will that water remain underground without the absence of rain? And how fast will the public consume that water? If we reach imbalance, we're going to go into serious trouble. But right now, we've managed to extend it for almost 10 or 12 days, or even up to 19 days. delayed day zero, which should have been 3 weeks ago.
Now, Imtiaz, I mean, this has been, there's been a build-up to this particular point. And what is what is the government there saying with regards to what action they're taking and why it got to this point to literally 10 days to day zero?
That's a question I can't answer. The municipality should have decided this a long time ago. That's why I said, you know what, people keep putting their head in the ground and thinking the rain's going to come, And the weather report tells you there is no rain. There's no rain. And you need to take action, not 48 hours before the day zero comes. You need to take action much, much earlier. And the type of action you can take in the absence of dams, in the absence of rain, in the absence of desalination plants, there's only 2 or 3 things you can do. One, make sure that all leaks are repaired and minimum water is lost through leakage. Number 2, get total participation of the community, like what happened in Cape Town in 2018 in day zero, where people were restricted to 50 liters a day. Number 3, look for existing boreholes that you have that are functional, and let's start taking water from those boreholes, make those boreholes functional. Number 4, there are boreholes which are way out from the town, which is not practical, which makes no sense to even use them. We looked at them day before yesterday. There's no point using them. But then drill boreholes based on hydrology findings closer to the town. And then, of course, with that, you make water available to JoJo tanks to the people in the street if the dam level is going to drop. And when that happens, of course, it's going to take long hours of queues for people to get water. But there is no other option. And of course, pray for rain to come. And they're expecting some rain soon, but I don't think it's going to be that big a quantity.
What impact is this having on the people there? I presume people are speaking to you and just trying to, just find a way, somewhere where they can be calmed and not start stressing even more, since they have been looking forward to this day zero. And, now Gift of the Givers is on the ground and they still have water in their taps. What are the people saying on the ground?
We're only getting prayers from the people, gratitude. And the moment that we walked in, they said, hope is arrived. That's what people tell us wherever we go. It's standard, comment that we get from people wherever we enter into any disaster site. I mean, because they know we're not caught up by bureaucracy and red tape. We go on site and we start doing things immediately. And as I said, Ladysmith, we fixed up 3 boreholes. Water has been provided at large quantities for the area. Zoa got sorted out. Latin Bay called us last week. We could reconnecting their boreholes. Their day zero is now going to be extended beyond day 40 because of our intervention. And they may reach no day zero at all because of what we've done there. Now, yesterday, Sedgefield calls us. Please, can you help us? Everything is down here. We're now taking normal water, adding it to salt water, to reduce the salination in the water so people can drink it. That's what we're doing in Sedgefield right now. But to answer your question, the public is very grateful. We brought in 75 tanks, both donated by JoJo tanks and Africa tanks and paid for by somebody. We got a school that has given us the whole ground to use for storing the tanks. And we've taken the tanks and put them into various areas, especially with the police services, old age homes, certain schools, certain clinics. And in certain areas, we have been using bottled water in the beginning. But now, of course, besides the 5 super tankers, we're using 2 of our own smaller tankers to deliver water to the area. So, and in short, we're trying to make it as least inconvenient for the people, given how they were used to getting water in the past. Water is still flowing from the taps because we're managing to put water into the dam faster than it's being used. And by using bottled water in the beginning only, not now, and opening boreholes, and getting our water tankers, small water tankers, to deliver water to the JoJo tanks, we are succeeding. But from yesterday, we now do have to look at alternative boreholes, either to open them or to drill additional ones. And this is where the government has to come in. They make an announcement about disaster, it's declared a state of disaster, but the action between the announcement and the real implementation takes a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm. And with authorities, they've stepped in with water restrictions and emergency funding. Have they said when they will be starting on the water infrastructure? You've just mentioned something that's very key. All the planning and getting to the action point does take a lot of time.
Well, they got a meeting on, I think, tomorrow or Friday, and my guys will ask them in a meeting, how long is this going to take? from the time of announcement to the time of implementation. And the common response is the money is not with us. It comes from Treasury. It depends how long it takes for Treasury to give us the money, when it's going to come, who we're going to employ, when we're going to do this. It's a usual story that takes weeks and weeks and weeks, and we'll still be filling the dam ourselves.
Imtiaz, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We are going to leave it there for today. That's a gift of the givers, Imtiaz Suleiman, joining us on the line. It is 12:51 Central African Time.
Você é fluente em português? É apaixonado por rádio e quer trabalhar na África do Sul? Você tem documentos que o qualificam para trabalhar na África do Sul? Nesse caso, podemos ter uma oportunidade para você trabalhar no Canal África. Envie seu currículo e demonstração para Canal África at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Lembre-se, se você não receber alguma resposta nossa em 14 dias, isso significa que você não foi selecionado. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
60 years of broadcasting Africa to the world. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Well, we say happy hump day to Debohole Kuleni of The Upside. How are you today?
Fantastic. How are you doing, Lulu?
I'm good, thank you. What's coming up today?
Yes, what's coming up on The Upside? Today we raise awareness on cancer because it is World Cancer Day, observed every year on the 4th of February. It started all in the year 2000 by the Union for International Cancer Control, and we'll be raising awareness, talking to survivors, and then we raise another awareness, human trafficking, how to spot potential human trafficking schemes and scams, how to prevent them, what to look out for as a parent and you yourself, especially now that they are online on social media, these scams, luring you in the prospects of a job overseas, only to find out that that's not the case. So we'll be raising awareness on that as well. And then we talk about love, as it is Valentine's Day in a couple of days' time.
The month of love.
It is the month of love, so we'll be sharing some ideas on how to better connect with your partner so that it doesn't just feel like it's a Valentine's Day exercise only, but throughout the whole year you get to express the love with your partner.
And the operative word being exercise. Exercise. All
it's
right.
a choice also.
That's all coming up on The Upside with Debohole Kuleni and Matseko Musito from the top of the hour. Well, we continue on Africa Update. We are still here. Continue with us on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes on +2783 288 6684. Hashtag Africa Update.
For 60 years, Channel Africa has connected the continent. Celebrate the journey. Celebrate the African perspective. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:54 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema has called on African diplomats to strengthen cooperation in promoting intra-African trade and investment, emphasizing that development, not conflict, is the continent's priority. Speaking during the recent 2026 presidential annual greetings to the diplomatic corps in Lusaka, President Hichilema urged African nations to invest in one another, saying joint investments would foster shared economic interests and help prevent conflict. Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe has more.
The annual diplomatic meeting is a strategic forum for advancing the country's foreign policy and development agenda. It allows Zambia to clearly communicate its priorities to the diplomatic corps, particularly its commitment to peace, stability, and economic growth, both nationally and across the African continent. The meeting also enables Zambia to promote intra-African trade and investment by encouraging stronger economic partnerships among African states. In his remarks, the Zambian president urged African diplomats to promote stronger trade ties among African nations.
For the African colleagues here,
this president is talking to your presence so that deliberately we can increase intra-African investment. Tanzanians investing in Zambians in Zambia and vice versa. Mozambicans investing in Mozambique and Zambia together. Ghanaians, as it were. I think we need a reform here. When we think of investment, we shouldn't always be thinking of Europe, America, China, Japan, Italy. We should also be thinking of ourselves. Joint investments. And that will also create a vested interest in each other, where we would not like to see conflict that damages our businesses in the next African country, because it affects us as well.
Hichilema said Zambia is actively playing a key role within the African Union to promote peace, security and stability across the continent, saying conflicts anywhere on the continent have far-reaching economic and social consequences.
We don't need conflict. What we need is development, colleagues. We don't need conflict. And so on the African Union, we're very active. Zambia is very active. And peace, security, stability. We're concerned about Eastern DRC. You all know that. We're concerned about many of our countries where there are trouble spots, because we believe that instability anywhere is instability everywhere, because it does affect us. And we talk of working together more. There's no question about that. We all know now, even global conflicts away from the African continent affect all of us through trade, through migration, unnecessary migration, and added costs, and so many things. So I really think that we need to continue working together there.
He added that Zambia is also pushing for reforms within the African Union and regional bodies.
This country, we're involved on the African continent in the reform of the African Union. Actually, after this meeting, I have a meeting with President Ruto and a few of our colleagues who are tasked to look at the reform of the African Union itself. We cannot be talking about reforms in our individual countries when the body that brings together is not reforming. So I'm here to say that we are concerned about some of the things that we do on the continent, and we're working together to look at how we can reform the African Union. Obviously, that also means reforms in the regional bodies, SADC, East African Community, West African Community, North Africa. I think those are the building blocks. But for us as a nation, we're driving reforms. So we're also saying we need reforms in SADC, we need reforms at the AU level, so that we can have complementarity. We can have convergence of what we call common things that need to be done across the continent.
He also raised concerns over the global financial architecture, noting that Africa pays higher borrowing costs than Western nations and calling for fairer financial reforms.
The issues around the touching on the global financial reform architecture, especially the issue around the cost of capital that Africa has to pay more than any other continent. We're not happy about that. It's not the right business thing to do. So we want Africa to be treated the same with regard to the cost of capital, the pricing of this commodity called capital. And there's no reason that the same business, same sector, elsewhere they pay less, we pay more in Africa. Then in the end we say Africa is inefficient. I don't agree with that. We don't agree with that, because part of those costs are driven by the cost of capital. So these are the sort of issues that we're talking about. And we would like to expand this area, as I talked about, trade and investment together.
And that report by Michael Mbewe, with Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema ending it. And that's how we wrap Africa Update today. It's been a good one. Continue with us on all our social media platforms, and let's do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
The African Perspective.
Thank you, Teboho. The former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi's son, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, has been confirmed dead from gunshot wounds. The Office of Libya's Attorney General says investigators and forensic doctors examined Saif al-Islam's body and determined that he died from gunshot wounds. Saif was expected to run again in the upcoming presidential elections in Libya next month, as details of the shooting remain undisclosed. The senior researcher at the Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection, Naeem Jena, explains.
Before the uprising began in 2011, he was seen as a kind of reformist figure, although he very modestly used to say that he doesn't want to be his father's successor. But around the world, especially in the Western world, promoted himself with Western governments, etc., as reformists that could bring democracy and liberalism, etc., to Libya. After the uprising in 2011, he was seen by many people as basically